Everybody, my name is Savoy.
You ready,
You
Professor?
ready?
I hope so. Can I go?
All right, hang on 1 second here. I need to figure something out. There we go. Sorry, I was in full screen and I can't grade you and take notes if I can't see them. Okay, sir. Ready for you.
Okie dokie. After action plan. Here we go. I'm sorry. I'll click it.
Hey everybody, my name is Savoy Adams. I'm currently a rising sophomore at Loyola University and I'm from Baltimore City. My working life views are forming human connections and being a servant leader. My passions are social injustice such as structural racism, the criminal justice system, and health disparities. My interests have been law, public health, public policy, and now design thinking. My engagements, flow, and energy from my Good Time Journal this year were playing squash at the Loyola Athletic Center, and that took a lot of energy and engagement. Another activity from my Good Time Journal was working at the Juice Bar in Belvedere Square on some weekends. This took a lot of energy and flow. Also from my Good Time Journal, one weekend I had shown my roommates a documentary on Netflix called 13 about the history of mass incarceration in the U.S. Watch it if you have not. Really good film. This gave me a high level of engagement and energy. These were all engagements that happened on campus. My Odyssey plan for this year consisted of 3 different plans. The first Odyssey plan was establishing a legacy. The second plan was my community and the impact it had on me. The plan that I chose to pursue was developing a career through my passions, interests like public health, public policy, and now my community. My challenge was I was unsure how to get to the end goal specifically in my major and career. My challenges reflected what I wanted in my working life goals to be. My unknowns were from how I would connect my passions to the career and major. Another question was how to focus on what I really wanted to pursue and narrowing down ideas. One of the biggest changes that I noticed was seeing my work and life view become more aligned with my Odyssey plan as I did my public story. My insights and questions were what things would give me more exposure to my career interests and passions. Are there any internship opportunities that are centered in my interests you know of that would benefit me? What are some majors or minors that would be good gateways to a future career in public policy and or public health? One of my interviews was with Coy Murthy, who was a program director of a nonprofit called Philanthropy Tank. The program's mission is providing funding in distressed communities for them to create innovative solutions to help their community. The insight from this interview was a public policy internship in DC. Another suggestion was to get more involved on campus and to join the Innovation Center. Another connection was with Dr. Schoenberg in the sociology department. The insight I was given from Dr. Schoenberger was she informed me about a major that she's trying to create that will combine 2 of my interests, criminal justice and sociology. Also from the interviews, I was told that I should consider making an idea board comparing careers and interests. In the coming year or next 12 months, I plan to pursue the majority of my insights from my prototype interviews. I first plan to do the idea board this month or after the semester is over. The purpose of the dream board is to help me narrow down what I want to pursue and give me more exposure to other career interests. At that time, I also will be looking at the dual graduate programs at Johns Hopkins. My next plan would be to find out the application process for the public policy internship. Another one is to explore Dr. Schoenberger's major she is trying to create. That would mean contacting her over the summer and getting any information as more becomes available. What I learned from my Odyssey plan process, it was that my challenges are extremely normal and being proactive really does help. Lastly, from the insights, getting even more involved on campus and with the Innovation Center. So far, I've already applied for a role in the Innovation Center to be on the Student Steering Committee. I also have started a club on campus that encompasses my passions and interests called Addressing the System. As a result of my interviews and research, I have decided to take classes that will prepare me for a degree in sociology and to look into applying for a public policy internship for the next summer. The outcome is majoring in sociology and doing more research and see how it relates to my passions and interests. In the meantime, I've accepted a position to work for the John Hopkins Center for Talented Youth teaching rising high school seniors on a course called Philosophy and Politics this summer. The takeaways were, what I learned about myself this entire design thinking your life process was that adapting is good. Thinking about my Odyssey plan, and I had to get used to changing the work and life views in the Odyssey plans over and over. These changes all came from my class feedback process that was extremely beneficial as I moved on to the next phases in the design thinking process. The members of my team for next year, I believe, will be for supporters, Nicole Yesevich, main man, Dr. Romani, Nicola Mohan. The players will be Father Tim Brown, Dr. Schoenberg, and Coach Matt. My intimates will be Shy, my mother, Abby Mackerel, and Sonia Uston. What I would do differently throughout my entire Odyssey plan, I would have taken more initiative through my prototyping process and getting even more feedback the entire way through. Recommendations of the other students in design thinking process on the next class will be asking for help throughout the process and to really understand the importance of designing your life. Lastly, be ready to fully engage in the class. You want to get the most out of it.
Wow. All right. So Savoy, you have set the bar. What kind of feedback do we have for Savoy?
Not all at once.
Eric?
Well, I mean, sounds like you reached an end goal. Sounds good. Seems fitting too, or not end goal, but like your major. It sounds like you picked one. And I noticed too, like your plan. It wasn't like, you landed on sociology and then said, so I guess I'll take a couple sociology classes. I thought you had some interesting plans for the future, and they sounded like really good opportunities. So I think that'll be a good kind of path forward for you.
Thank you, Eric.
Welcome.
I like the visuals.
Here we go.
What'd you like about those, Abby? What'd those contribute?
I like how like each had like the key points and like the pictures connected to what he was saying, like as he went on. It was like easier to follow.
Anybody else? I thought if I was going to give an example of how to do this, I would pick your talk, and I think the slides helped you. You checked off, I mean, it was very clear with the language that you were using that you were going down the list and you were checking it off, but by the same token, by putting that in a slide and going, and I know you practiced over and over again, it made that checklist conversational, right? I felt like you were telling us and having a conversation, and it was really easy to go through and identify how you put this together, how you grew from it, how the things changed, and what you were doing. I thought that your biggest, your strength and where you spent a lot of your time, and this was smart. One, because these are your results and how you're going forward, and this is what you're going to do. So I'd want to spend more time on that, but it's also worth the most points. And so that's the new part here, right? How are you putting this together? What were your takeaways? What did you learn? What would you do differently? And I thought that that was a really strong part of your talk through that. You were at 547 with that, so nice job.
Thank you.
Do I have any questions for you? Okay. Eric.
Give me one sec. Mm,
Then Maya, you're on deck.
okay. Hi guys, my name is Eric Razio and I am an intended information systems major. I value and enjoy work that demands creative problem solving while also working in service of others. After looking at my good time journal, I noticed that activities that bring me engagement and flow are challenging problems. My favorite problem solving task is computer science, and I noticed that out of all my homework and assignment, I'm sorry, can you guys see that? It says it's paused.
No, we can't see it.
You can't see it?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. How about now?
Uh-uh.
You can't see that.
No. You guys see it?
No.
Okay.
Are you sharing your screen, Eric?
Yeah. When I click on it, now it's saying it's paused. I don't know why. I just opened the video. Can you see it now?
Mm-mm.
No.
So we hear everything.
So you're in your it looks like you're in your after action plan papers. Go to your
Yeah.
screen.
All right, I'm gonna stop sharing and then re-hit it.
Okay.
You are a true computer science major. We're going to turn it off and then
Yep.
we're going to turn it back on. We're going to solve all the problems.
And did it work?
Well
It's-
done, young man.
yeah.
Yes.
I'm ready to graduate.
You're ready to graduate.
Give me my degree. All right, let's go. Hi guys, my name is Eric Razio and I am an intended information systems major. I value and enjoy work that demands creative problem solving while also working in service of others. After looking at my good time journal, I noticed that activities that bring me engagement and flow are challenging problems. My favorite problem solving task is computer science, and I noticed that out of all my homework and assignments, coding stuck out as one I was always eager to do. For this reason, it also became an activity that I was engaged in and even achieved flow in. Activities that bring me energy are typically forms of leisure. My favorite energizing leisure activity is listening to music. Whether I need to focus, boost my energy, or relax and recharge, music always stimulates me. So these two insights from my good time journal led to the creation of two of my Odyssey plans. Based on my strong interest in computer science and my prior intent to major in information systems, I decided to make my first Odyssey map a path toward a career in IS. Now, I struggled with my second map because I wasn't sure what my next passion would be if I couldn't be an IS major, and note this problem would come back later. Eventually, I landed on pursuing a finance career. For my third map, I knew that if money and image were no object, I would probably enjoy a career in music. So for this map, I created a path toward becoming a DJ and community figure. So I chose to pursue my first plan, the IS career, because I thought it would be the most realistic, beneficial, and coherent for my current life goals. This challenge reflects my work-view interest in problem solving and helping others, and it reflects my life view in the way that the broad scope of IS careers can enable me to have agency over my life path in the short and long term. My key questions came about after I created this map because I thought I knew what I wanted to do, discovered holes in my plans once I actually made it. The most important question was what specific jobs are available to IS majors. I couldn't move forward with my plan if I didn't have a good target for my career path. And the biggest iteration to my design challenge was how I would discover what IS careers are available to me. Originally, I naively thought I would be able to talk to professors and alumni and just find a few interesting careers. This, however, was not the case. So to explain, I began by interviewing Dr. Talon of the IS department. I asked him what jobs I can get as an IS graduate. He told me that I should first determine what fields, such as consulting, data science, or finance, I want to apply my IS skills to, then determine what kind of job I want, because the field I enter will dictate my work more than any job title. He also recommended I acquire a second field of expertise to pair with IS. This interview also began the expansion of contact referrals, insights, and experiences I built in my prototype planning worksheet. This led to my next meeting with Carol Leggio, a graduate professor of finance. I asked her why finance is becoming such a popular pairing with IS and what job opportunities exist in that field. She explained that IS is important to finance because of its utility to firms. She also echoed Dr. Talon's point that IS can be important anywhere, so I should apply it somewhere that excites me. These insights led to me meeting with 2 industry professionals, one retired and one active. I first met with my friend Chris Carter. He held a variety of different IT-related jobs, so I asked him to detail his experiences and perspective on the various roles he held during his career. After this conversation, I still had the most interest in a consulting career, something Dr. Talon had mentioned from the beginning. I decided to meet with TJ Dolan, a senior consultant at Deloitte and Loyola alumnus. I asked him primarily about his path during and after college, an overview of his roles and tasks as a consultant, and advice for transitioning through college and into professional life. After my meetings, I had amassed numerous recommendations for experiences to help me find an IS career path. These included taking an internship, numerous business courses, joining various clubs and organizations, and taking advantage of certain opportunities offered by Loyola. To deduce what experiences I'm going to explore first, I created a 12-month plan. This starts in this summer of 2020 and utilizes 2 pieces of advice given to me by TJ Dolan. The first one was, don't get stuck in the books, have fun too. So I want to use this summer to find new interests and hobbies. And I also want to practice balancing work and play for next school year. He also told me to set goals and never stop working toward the path that you want. And so for this, I'm going to take personal goals in exercise, cooking, and writing code. For the fall, I'm going to take Marketing 240 and IS 251 to gain entrance and experience in these new fields and determine what I will really enjoy. I also want to join the Financial Management Association and the Loyola Consulting Group to get external experience. And this last group is now under the CIE, so I want to gain guidance and information from my player, Dr. Amani, and the rest of the CIE team about this opportunity. I also want to declare my major and continue networking so that I can have new opportunities from the school. And finally, in spring of 2021, I'm going to take Intro Finance, International Business, Statistical Computing to again gain experience in other fields and see what I might like to apply my IS skills to. I also want to use LinkedIn, Handshake, and Loyola Connect to start searching for an internship, and I plan to do that with guidance from Dr. Talon. I also learned that having a plan is the key to achieving my goals, so I want to plan for future opportunities such as study abroad and the tech track. Now, I learned a lot from this process, including prototyping and this challenge in general, and I realized that my plan is currently open-ended and I need to embrace that. I initially wanted to know IS careers that I could enter, but after receiving answers that were closer to "it depends," I ended up realizing that I need to discover more about my interests right now before I can determine what jobs I would like in the future. This moved my progress back a bit, but is a setup for my next steps and will help me achieve a better end goal. The feedback that drove this learning was that I need to find an additional area of interest. Every person I interviewed emphasized that IS is not a means to an end. It's more like a skill set to be tailored to the needs of others. For this reason, I should work to determine who it is I want to be creating for so that I enjoy the work that I'm doing. So after completing this project, I've reflected a lot upon the way I work and how I set goals. So as far as personal reflection, I realized that the first version of a product is never the best version, and that I have to prototype forward to get good products. I also realized I can't start with the reductive mindset, as this really kills my creativity. And finally, I realized that I need to balance and structure time to allow other things besides work, and that also lines up with my work and life view. I recognize that time is irreplaceable and I have to be more mindful of how I spend it, especially in terms of my supporters and intimates. Both of these groups were assigned team roles for the purpose of this assignment, but more importantly, they're my friends and family. I also recognized a number of things I would have done differently in this project. I think I would have started interviews sooner so that I could do more because my contacts really did keep building. I would also interview more industry professionals. As I advanced in my search for information, TJ and Chris were able to give me the best and most personal advice just by the nature of their experience. It was also nice that I could talk to them with a bit less of an academic filter. Finally, my 2 recommendations for future design students would be to first, trust the design process. Specifically, focus on expansive thought because it will make you more creative and work more effectively. Also work on utilizing prototyping. Prototyping is practice and practice makes perfect. Finally, people like to talk about their passions. Don't overthink interviewing. Instead, accept it as a gateway to new and better opportunities and recognize that the more you do it, the easier it gets. Thanks, guys.
All right, 8:31. What kind of feedback do you have for Eric?
First off, I think you did a really good job. Strong pieces, PowerPoints as you went through your entire PowerPoint. I also thought that you were it's like sort of good summarize. You broke each thing down to help us keep us organized and on track. And then I like your end goal, it's not exactly what you want to do, but just having different options and learning more about your interests and stuff like that. Good job, Eric.
Who else? Okay, Eric, if you had not told me at the end what your takeaways were and what your recommendations were, I would have known them. And the reason is because throughout your talk, you challenged choice outcome to your whole talk, like every single part. I approached this is what I encountered, this is what I did, right? And so you talked about the importance of prototyping and having an expansive mindset and being able to change and how this thing evolved throughout everything. Every single point that you went through, you were fussing with that, right? So for you to have come to that conclusion at the end made a lot of sense, which is really good storytelling. So as your listener, I'm looking forward. I can almost anticipate where this is going. I'm just looking for different names and different details. Even in your, even as you introduced a category, you would introduce in general, this is what I did. My name is Eric. My work and life views are involve things that are challenges. And then you went and you told me what the challenges were that led to that and why that fit with your major and your prospective major in computer science and how that worked. So I thought that throughout, you did that really well. If I had to ask you to change something as you were going through your choices and your results, I think you could have streamlined that a little bit. I understand what you were doing in trying to go to each person and then set it up. We could have gotten to, you and I maybe could get together and kind of combine some of those criteria because you were saying the same thing over again. Mm-hmm. Again, this is small stuff. So does that make sense?
Yeah, no, definitely.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Maya.
We didn't have to record our videos, right?
No, you did not. Okay. Seems like a good idea now, though, doesn't it? But you guys will be fine because you've given good live. You've gotten given good live run, so you'll do just fine.
I don't know if you can see my screen.
We can.
Okay.
Yeah, leave it to the writer to do good with the tech.
All right. So mine is very simple. I don't know if it's as complex as the other two, but so my name is Niara, but I go by Maya, and I'm a Philadelphia native. Growing up as a girl of color who was primarily raised by a single father, the importance of education and identity were instilled in me at a very young age, especially in achieving social mobility and creating a legacy for myself and my future family. After the sudden loss of my father during my sophomore year of high school, the lessons in which I was instilled by my father became more personal and consequently catalyzed my work values of productivity, diligence, and sustenance, and my life values of justice, advocacy, and community. As a young woman searching for both place and meaning in the world, I've explored many different hobbies where I've experienced energy, engagement, and flow. These hobbies have been the gym, reading/writing, and hiking in that corresponding order. Before my regularly scheduled hobbies were interrupted during the new novel COVID-19, throughout the semester, I would typically read and write during my leisure time, use time after classes, and on the weekends to go off campus to the gym and hike with some friends back home. So these are my mind maps. These aren't the only experiences I've had throughout the semester, though, as I've experienced some challenges. One challenge in particular that I focused on for this class. This challenge related to my major and my pre-professional interests, as I'm a psychology major interested in clinical psych and law with a very ardent passion for writing, as shared previously. I was left with two main questions regarding my prospective career paths: what extracurriculars and courses were important, and where might these careers intertwine? To get my questions answered, I had interviewed Dr. Coro, clinical psychologist and director of the PsyD program, Dr. Miriam Loyola's pre-law advisor, and Dr. Tanner, a published last awarded author and director of the writing department. The three choices that I noted from these interviews are: 1, joining clubs and other spaces on campus related to my major / prospective career paths; 2, taking a variety of courses related to these interests of mine; and 3, getting involved in some sort of field experience, including an internship or an active learning course. With this information, the outcome that I realized from my interviews was taking advantage of resources on campus when I returned in the fall, particularly courses and extracurricular activities such as clubs and organizations. Staying connected with Dr. Coiro and Dr. Tanner was also a takeaway, given that they are good resources on campus that I'm now connected with, which can help when choosing courses and or need academic / pre-professional guidance. In particular, I will be taking a prerequisite course in the fall to become a writing tutor in the Writing Center, which will provide me with experience and paid employment in the spring. One thing in particular that I've learned from this process is taking advantage of the resources in my proximity, especially professors and department heads. While one may be apprehensive to introduce oneself, these members of the community can become resources in the future for other needs along your academic journey. Many of these community members would love to assist you academically or pre-professionally, so there isn't much harm in reaching out. This would also be my advice given to students in the future. There are many resources on campus at your disposal. You just have to be self-aware and self-sufficient enough to ask for help. One thing that I learned about myself, though, is that many of my interests are deeply connected to my identity and my unique experiences, and there is a lot of overlap between these facets of my life that I can intertwine for future pursuits, including my pre-professional interests. As a result, I wouldn't do anything differently throughout this process.
You would not do anything differently?
Yes.
Why not?
I didn't necessarily find any place throughout the process where I thought I needed, I guess, assistance. Like I wasn't really able to identify a part throughout the process where I felt I needed to make any changes personally. So.
But you had a recommendation, and this is small stuff. I'm just trying to reconcile this and maybe show you where you may have, because I thought your recommendation about using the proximate resources and how people were so willing to help, summarizing what you said, right? And that was somewhat of a surprise to you. If you knew that in March, would you have engaged those folks sooner? Or you would have done it anyway and you just didn't know? I mean, and again, that's up to you. I'm not telling you what you learned, I'm asking.
I think, well, throughout this process in particular, I would say like most of my challenges didn't really have anything to do with the assignment specifically.
Okay.
More so to do with just personal things that were interfering with my ability to do the assignment.
Logistics.
Yeah. So there are things that I would do differently, but they're not really in relation to academics. So that's why I didn't really list anything.
Okay. Okay. What other questions or comments do you have for Maya? Okay, I will give you one, and it's stylistic. So you tied a lot of these things together. This was probably as streamlined and concise a talk that you could give, right? Which is totally fine. and you came in at 346, which is totally fine because, you know, I think that you hit most of the stuff. So I'm not criticizing that. If you're going to move that quickly through the content, you have some space to be able to provide the content a little slower, right? So that folks can actually digest what you're saying. So for the presenter, you get through it just fine, but don't forget that you're also trying to convey the information to somebody else, especially when you have your slides. So if you were to give this like in a scientific meeting or in a workshop of writers or something like that, my feedback to you would be, don't change any of the content. I wouldn't even change what you said, but I would say it a little bit slower, right? And that can be, you can change the cadence of your delivery so that you're going faster and going slower. That's one piece of it. But if you have the visuals, let the visuals provide some space. People are still engaged, and then they have a chance to absorb what you're saying. Does that make sense? So you could take some breaks in there, especially as you're going quickly from one of the categories to the next. And again, it's like Eric, that this is a small thing, and I think if we gave like if you and I were in a room and we gave your talk 2 times, this would be taken care of, right? So that would be the only piece, right? Because, you know, there might be somebody paying attention and trying to keep track, like me, right, and trying to get all the stuff and trying to get it, right? So that's it. That's like I said, if you gave this talk 2 more times, I think we could take care of this. And the beauty of it is that would only take about 7.5 minutes. So we would be able to do it quite quickly. Okay. Thank you very much. Abby?
Okay. Can you see it?
Yeah, I have a quick question for you, by the way. Oh, never mind.
Should I start?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. I thought you were asking us.
No, you're good.
Hi, my name is Abby Madalena, and I'm a rising sophomore at Loyola studying economics. Prior to taking this class, I felt lost with the various potential careers and opportunities.
Abby, I'm going to stop you right there. All right, go ahead and start over. You're fine.
Wait, what's
Take a deep breath.
Okay.
Take a deep breath. You're fine. Just slow down a little bit.
Okay.
You're doing great.
I have a lot, so I'm trying to like go through the. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, my name is Abby Madalena, and I'm a rising sophomore at Loyola studying economics. Prior to taking this class, I felt lost with the various potential careers and opportunities that were either presented to me or crossed my mind. While on the prowl, I kept in mind the importance of a strong work ethic that would foster room for improvement, promotions, and one day even being my own boss. Another important factor is the necessity to benefit and support community members surrounding your work. Staying active, exploring new things, and setting new goals gives me energy and creates high levels of engagement. At home, I have found new hiking paths that have boosted my energy, while on campus, I stayed engaged by finding a tennis buddy to play with me, and I created a steady flow by completing my homework in the beginning of each week. Throughout my process, I toggled with pursuing a career in the FBI or law field. As seen in my slide, my Odyssey plan consists of diverse options. They each have different factors like whether or not money is a component, if family is in my future, or fitting hobbies in. I focused in on number 2, which is the most realistic plan, if I'm willing to put in the work. It engages in questions like what classes/clubs will I partake in at Loyola. This plan poses the challenge of, do I want to spend an additional 3 years in law school versus going directly into the workforce? My public story allowed me to gather information pertaining to a pre-law path, where I spoke to a successful lawyer who advised and counseled me to take specific classes and dip my feet in the water by taking on an internship in any type of setting where law is practiced. One of the major differences between now and then is that I was very confident that I wanted to work with the FBI. But now, considering the logistics, it does not seem compatible with my goals and mission. My key questions focused on my course here at Loyola, including tips to succeed in the types of internships I should be engaging in. I was told that an economics major is suitable for a pre-law student, but he also inspired me to look into a philosophy or an English major. The most beneficial opportunity that arose from these interviews is a summer internship at his firm. Although this is a basic filing job, I can still get a glimpse of the law firm office setting. First, I'm going to explore an economics major with an English minor. I will then take classes that satisfy these. I'm going to pursue the internship at the law firm this summer, where I hopefully can see the law working in action. This small opportunity can potentially lead to bigger roles in the office. Also, I would like to find a niche of people on campus who are also interested in a pre-law track. I learned that the best insights you can get on a potential plan are from those who are already living in it and have years of feedback and experience to contribute to your decision. I think the most valuable thing I got out of this plan was that I no longer am interested in working with the FBI. After completing interviews, research, where I can see this is going in the future. I had never sat down and listened to what my life values were before. By talking to my peers who are going through the same confusing process of developing our futures, it allowed me to see what strong characteristics I have compared to others, and using these comparisons to hopefully lead me to my passions or a potential career. I learned that the career I had dreamed of was unrealistic and incompatible with my values and goals in life. Lastly, I learned that building connections is not going to happen if you don't apply yourself and ask people questions. The interviews establish pertinent communication skills used in the real world. I plan for my team to consist of Dr. Berger, other members of the economic department, Helen Hoffman of the English department, my mentors, Father Brown, Colleen, Professor Amani, and of course my closest friends and family. If I were to do anything differently, I think it would be to ask for more feedback and honest suggestions from my peers, because their opinions are the most relatable and accurate in my opinion. My biggest advice to future students would be not to be afraid of reaching out to people, because if you don't ask, the answer will always be no. I think my interviewing process was the most beneficial towards my progress, and people should take them seriously. As a freshman, I was a little apprehensive to plan out my life, but these methods are effective and will help in the long run.
Abby, why were you in such a hurry? You left 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes on the table.
I know, when I did it, I had it at 5 minutes and 30 seconds last time.
Yeah, you cut 1 minute off that on game day. What kind of feedback do you have for Abby?
Abby, I thought you did a good job, because everyone else has been pre-recorded, but you doing that sort of like broke it down like this. I sort of like that a little bit more, like more of a TED talk, like, oh, she's saying this, and then next slide, like you were there with us more. And also, like, it was organized, it was straight to your point. You were quickly, so I like that too.
Who else?
One of the things that stuck out to me was that you had like little quote snippets from your interviewees on some of your slides. I thought that was a cool addition, because it just kind of shows that it was like an important piece for you, and it kind of drew attention to that.
Can I jump on that too? Not only does it show that it made an impact on you, but you can't respond and relay a direct quote days, weeks, months after it's given to you, unless you're sitting there and writing it down, right? So one of the things that I continuously conveyed to you all was, when you're in your interviews, go in with a set of questions and write down the answers, right? So that you have your list of insights, right? And that was part of the prototype planning process. And it's part of one of the things that I've asked you to do and collect for this. If you don't write down those things when you're meeting with a user to create a product or a service for them, or you're meeting with a potential mentor or a prototyper to impact your future, you can't remember it, right? So Eric, cheers to you for picking that up. Abby, cheers to you for doing such a nice job of integrating that into into your talk. And then from a stylistic standpoint in telling a story, those are the types of details, right? If somebody gives you a quote, it's real. Like, there's no debate about that. That's what they said. It might be interesting or not interesting, but it's real and it's authentic, right? Your job as the presenter is to weave that in so that it's making your point, and you did that. And you can't do that unless you go into the interview with a plan, and when you execute your plan, you actually keep track, right? So it's just a design thinking piece that I don't want to go, that I don't want to be lost, right, on that. Abby, I think too, and I know this will happen again by the time we're done today, but I think of anybody in your class, you had a very clear idea about, and you talked about this with your Odyssey plans, like, hey, I'm gonna find out if the FBI is for me. And you know what? You found out very quickly that it wasn't, and for good reasons. This does not align with my life and my work view. This is not something I think I wanna do. And as I say all the time, no is an acceptable answer. The faster, the better. Think about how much time you have saved by making that decision over like a 3 or 4 week period, as opposed to your junior year or 3 years out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the fact that you can explore something and then it's a dead end, right, that's fine. That is also the purpose, right? I don't want that to be lost. You can get these insights and catapult yourself forward, or pump the brakes. And either way, that's fine. I think that's a really good takeaway. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Connor.
All right.
Give me 1 second, my man. Okay.
You see this?
No, just see you. This is what I've been looking at with that white background all semester, man.
Oh,
There you go.
okay. All right, here's my after action plan. My name is Connor Rebely, and I'm from North Brunswick, New Jersey. As I progressed through this class, I began to realize what my work and life views are. In terms of my work view, I value hard work, accountability, and quality leadership. I've gained those insights through my career starting in 8th grade through running, and that has allowed me to continue that in college. My life view is centered around my family, specifically through faith and community, and especially through my team, which I learned that I value exercise. As I did the good time journals for this class, I learned what gives me energy, engagement, and flow. What gives me energy is being around my friends and family. And what gives me engagement is when I'm in class or studying or learning about something new in general. But what gives me flow is when I'm running, especially when I'm having a great workout or a nice long run, or if I'm just talking with someone about something I love. When I made my 3 Odyssey maps, they were each different, but I found out the one titled Fully Committing to Running was the one I chose to pursue when I did my prototyping interviews. I chose this one because this is something I'm passionate about. I love running and I love exercising. But when I first did this Odyssey plan, the main questions I had were, what kind of jobs could I actually do with this? Because I realized that I'm not going to be a professional runner. I've known that for quite a while, but in the running industry, there are a lot of jobs out there, but I didn't really know what there were. Oh, sorry. And something I learned through this process was that I found myself asking, I had to follow what I love doing instead of just asking, what job can I get? Because that's boring. I have to love what I do. So when I did my prototyping interviews, I first interviewed my cousin Tony. She's a recruiter working for Google. When I talked to her, she told me that I should follow what I'm passionate in and that I should reach out to my coaches and other people that are close to me first before I start reaching out to other people. After I did that, I reached out to my old college coach, Brad Kilheeney, and he introduced me to Kyle Price, who works for the Garden State Track Club. When I talked to him, he said that since I'm interested in marketing, I ought to become a marketing major and see what kind of classes and clubs are available. After talking with him, I talked to my current coach, Amy Horst, and she introduced me to the Greyhound Leadership Academy, which I've pursued for a couple of weeks now, going to a couple of meetings with them, and now I'm interested in joining SAC. Some of the key insights that I've learned through these interviews is that I should stick with what I'm passionate in, and that there's always more people to get connected with. In terms of what's next, that's interesting. If everything returned back to normal today, I already had a plan in place, which involves getting a job down in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware at the Nike outlet, and then live down there for about 4 months, where I would be able to meet with the District Track Club down in Washington, D.C., as well as other clubs around the Rehoboth area. However, that's not going to work out since obviously there's coronavirus, but in 12 months, hopefully, when life gets back to normal, I can continue that part of my plan next year. However, when we return to Loyola, hopefully this fall, my plan is to join the Sigma Society, which is a marketing club at Loyola. I'll continue running cross country and track and develop as a leader in my team. I hope to become captain one day. I'll become a member of SAC, continue the Leadership Academy, and then I'll begin taking marketing classes. I'm taking MK240. And then next summer, it's possible I may have an internship with the New York Roadrunners. After doing all of my interviews, one of the key takeaways, as I've said before, is that I'm on the right path and I ought to stay with my passion. But I've also learned that there's not one set path. In the marketing industry, there's so many things I could do, and there's so many jobs available for me. When I think about my team, my supporters are my close family, classmates, former coaches, teachers now, and my friends from home. My players now are my current teammates, such as my roommates and the new contacts I've made. My intimates are my close family, roommates, and current coaches. Is there anything I would have done differently? I don't think there would be. I think it was the best thing I could have done was talk to my cousin Tony first, because that gave me confidence in reaching out to new people after the insight she gave me. What I would recommend for students in the future is, like I just said, to talk to family first. That helps you get comfortable, and that you should find the resources that are already available to you. As a student athlete at Loyola, there are so many things available to me that I didn't realize at first that I now have access to. Lastly, I'd like to just say that this is your life that you're designing, and then it's really important to do that. Thank you.
Feedback do you have for Connor?
I would say there was two things that I noticed that I thought were good. The one was how you recognized in your plans, like you kind of had a plan and it was going to work for you and seemed pretty interesting, but you're like, well, I guess I can't do this now. And so you still presented it, but then kind of shifted to how you can adapt it. And I thought your alternate plan was good too. And then what was it at the end? Never mind. There was another piece that was good though.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Maya, Mary, anything for Connor?
I think the visuals that you used made your presentation a little more personal, especially because you used pictures of yourself and you included things like Loyola and other communities. So it kind of added I would say a more personal touch that felt a little more interactive, I guess, than maybe some of the other ones.
I knew you had a twin. I did not know you had an identical twin.
Yeah.
Yeah, referred to as his competitive brother and running partner usually throughout class,
Yeah.
throughout the year. But again, to Maya and Abby's point, wow, that kind of hits you in the head when you see that on a picture, right? It's like there's Connor racing himself, right? So that's a key point. And I think my initial piece, like he's got those two pictures on that first slide, and you're like, okay, that's his family and that's him running. Those are probably pretty important things to him. And then you see the words, you could almost have eliminated those words and just said that stuff with those two pictures, because I mean, it's very clearly you're in it and you're speaking. So those are two things that are important. There's a family picture, right? So, I mean, those two pictures I thought were a great way to kind of kick it off and to make this talk personal, because it is about you, right? So I thought that was good. The other interesting thing too with you, Connor, is that if we had sat down in the beginning of March when we did the mind map and say, hey, Connor's going to do something with running, right? That was before you even did your Odyssey plan. So you took your apparent Odyssey plan, right, to see how that would work out. So for somebody who had a pretty good idea what they were going to do, think about how many options and how many different things and tracks you came up with your normal plan, right? So you're open-minded about, and you mentioned this in your talk, open-minded about the ways that you can fulfill that plan, right? Even though this is my go-to, this is what my sure thing, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And you know, I think you saw that. The other takeaway that I will now make to my classes, because I've heard it a couple of times, the interview process is new, right? The prototyping process is new. So how do you control the variables in something that's new? You do something that's comfortable and familiar to you. So why not prototyping on somebody that you already know, right? And so I was thinking that as you were doing it, and I've heard the story of Tony now a number of times, right? But then you tied that together. That's a great insight, right? And piece of advice, and it's honest. Like I became more comfortable talking with this person that I knew, so that when I was ready to go to the people that I didn't know, I was in a better position to do that and ask the questions. And I think that's a great takeaway for you and people that follow you. Okay. 6:12 on that, by the way. So nice job with the time.
Thanks.
Mary.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Mary Ryan, and I'm a rising sophomore at Loyola, and I'm currently majoring in accounting. I get a lot of my work and life views from my parents and how I was raised. I was always taught to work hard and to help others, and you'll feel fulfilled. Looking back on my good time journal, some of the things that gave me energy, flow, and engagement were playing basketball, talking to family and friends, and spending my free time doing the things I love to do. Since I've been home, I've continued doing many of the things that give me energy, flow, and engagement, like playing basketball, working out, talking to my friends and family, even though I'm not able to see my friends right now. My 3 Odyssey plans were enjoying business ideas with structures, working with athletes in sports medicine, and helping kids in bad situations. The plan that I chose to pursue was enjoying business ideas with structure. This plan reflects my work and life view, because being able to get a business degree will help me find a stable job where I can work hard and support my family and help others. The key questions and unknowns I set out to discover about this plan were, would being an accountant ever become boring for me? Will I have enough money to go to grad school after undergrad? And how long would it take for me to study for and pass the CPA? From the beginning of prototyping to the conclusion, the biggest change was trying to incorporate my other 2 Odyssey plans into the one that I chose. This included asking how people who work in accounting incorporate their values in helping others into their job. The insights that I initially set out to gain was to find out why each person chose their career and if they feel fulfilled in what they do. I also set out to better understand what a job in accounting would be like and find out more of the day-to-day things they experience. Some of the ideas for experiences, courses, or plans that I generated from my prototype meetings for me to choose from are to get an internship so I can better understand the working environment and see if I like it, take more business courses, specifically accounting, and join clubs or groups that have a service focus. From my interviews, I've come up with some of the experiences, courses, and plans for the upcoming year. First, next semester, I will start taking business courses. I'm also going to try and find a service club to help others. And finally, I'm going to apply for internships for next summer so I can experience the work environment that I would hopefully be part of later in life. From this process, feedback and prototype about my life, I learned that it is very attainable and I'm on the right track. I've also learned the steps that I need to take from here to get to where I want to be. I also learned that in order to feel fulfilled in my career, I need to find a way to incorporate my life view, such as helping others, into my job, so I'm not just focused on myself. I got this idea from looking back on my mind mapping and seeing how some of the descriptions were about helping people and making a difference. A key feedback that drove me to this thought was Professor Romani's feedback on my personal story. He mentioned how I needed to connect how my parents influenced my life and work view into my career. From this, I realized how important it was for me that in order to be happy with my career, that I needed to be able to help others and make a difference. Some takeaways that I learned were that even though I was hesitant to complete the interviews, that they were very helpful in prototyping my future and what I want to do. Something that I would have done differently is that I would have started getting insights from the people I interviewed earlier because they ended up being very helpful. And I would also make my plan more specific and easier to follow. Some of the people who I see on my team next year are Tim Hurley, who would be a player, and he has become a mentor after I interviewed him for my prototyping. My sister, Sarah, and my friend Tatiana would be intimates because I always go to them for advice. And Sheila Simon would be a supporter because she's always been a mentor for me throughout high school and continuing into college. The recommendation I would give to students using a design framework to design their college experience in the future is that even if you plan everything out perfectly, your plan could always change due to uncontrollable circumstances like we have seen with Corona currently. And I would also say to just be ready to be able to adapt to the circumstances that you are given, but also put a lot of thought into your plans and how you want your college experience to be like.
All right, Mary, 450, what kind of feedback do you have for Mary?
The one thing that I noticed was your plan that you made. I thought matched your values, and you kind of said that for yourself, and you connected how you got there with like some of the past work that we've done in the class and how it kind of built to that. So I thought that was a good connection, helped bring it together.
Who else? Mary, you alluded to this in your summary about making your plan more detailed. So when you talked about the ideas and experiences in courses or plans you're going to explore first, which business courses, which clubs, which activities are you going to explore?
Yes, so next semester, the courses I'm taking are accounting and business statistics, and then hopefully the next semester I'll take marketing and management for business courses. And then hopefully if we go back to campus next semester, I'll go to the club fair and find a service club that I feel like I can connect with and want to be a part of.
Okay, so those two things that you just did went from general and kind of, yeah, I'm going to do something, to I've got a plan. Like, even though you don't know the club, the fact that you just laid out the plan to find one indicates that either you remember from freshman year when they were telling you the first week you need to go to the fair, or that you're actually looking into it. So just those details that you added, I think addresses one of your own takeaways like that you came up with at the end? Because think about this. I just asked you, you didn't even have to look. Like, hey, I'm taking these 4 classes and when they're going to be done, right? Like, you know. And I knew you knew, right? Because I'm your advisor and I know what you're taking next semester, right? So just, you know, just adding those details. You had plenty of time, right, at 4:50 to do that. The other piece too that I mentioned, let me go back up to my notes here, pardon me, just a second. And perhaps this did come from the feedback that you said I gave you earlier on, but you talked about your views, and even though it wasn't offered and it wasn't part of the rubric here, it has been a theme. You talked about where they came from, right? So in your introduction, you know, everybody added different things. Some of you add your hometown, some of you add your major, some of you add you know, what your interests are. You talk about your values and where they came from with your parents. And then I think you talk about your parents a number of times throughout, and I think that's a good. So you've taken a big step towards what we talked about a week and a half ago, whatever that was. So I just want to recognize that right off the bat, it's like, oh, I know what she's about, and I know why, right? Okay, thanks everybody. Are you relieved?
Thank you, Professor. This is a good semester, I would say.
What do you think about this project, and what do you think about the presentation? Was 6 or 7 minutes? I mean, if you had to go and do this again, I know a couple of you might have been a little bit over that, but if you had to do that again, is that pretty reasonable?
I think it's reasonable. Yeah.
Do you feel like that anybody did not have the opportunity to complete the things they needed to and kind of take us through the journey and to do this?
I think everybody hit it in the head with the hammer. They were on the money. Everybody pat yourself on the back. You did a good job, the first group. I know the second group's going to do phenomenal too. The first group set the bar high. That's all I'm saying. There we go. Come on, we're finished with.
I had to take after you, Savoy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Savoy, you set the bar high.
Oh, I try my best, but hey.
Okay. All right. I'm going to jump off. Let me get a view here of who we got in the room. Oh, hello, everybody. The average time was 5:50 with that. So what I'm going to do very quickly, because I'm recording this, I'm going to jump off and get back on. So if this gets dropped, those of you that are in the second group, you can jump right back on. Thanks, everybody.